Alright guys, last weekend in the Championship did not disappoint and we're back again to do it all today. We've got a full fixture list coming up in midweek and all of those games will be previewed in today's video. As always, I want to hear from you in the comments down below. Do drop your score predictions down there. But without any further ado, let's jump in. So starting out at Ewood Park for Blackburn up against Sheff Wednesday. Neither side in particularly great form right now. They're both sat in mid-table, 12th and 13th, both on 52 points after 40 matches, and each side has seen their top six hopes fade away in recent weeks with these bad runs of form. Obviously, from a Blackburn perspective, another loss for Vela and Ishmael over the weekend. They found themselves 2 goals down against Middlesbrough very early on and couldn't recover from that point. Feels like things could get really toxic off the pitch there between now and the end of the season. And from a Sheff Wednesday perspective, I did successfully call that 1-0 loss against Hull over the weekend. It just feels like at Hillsborough this season there's been one too many occasions where they've ended up shooting themselves in the foot. They've had a very poor home record this season, Wednesday. And despite probably looking like the more likely side to take the lead against Hull for a lot of that match, they end up losing it thanks to a last-minute winner. I do think there tends to be a bit more about Sheff Wednesday in away matches though, and it has to be said this is a really good time to be playing Blackburn right now. So score prediction for this one, I'm going to go 2-1 Wednesday for a win on the road in that game. After that we go to Ashton Gate for a massive game in the race for the top 6. It's Bristol City up against West Brom, and Bristol City have an opportunity here to really make a statement. They could end Tuesday night having a 6-point lead over West Brom if they win this game. So absolutely pivotal in the race for the playoffs, and right now you probably have to be fancying Bristol City. They're definitely the team coming into this fixture with form behind them. They've only lost 1 of their last 9 league matches, and that was against a very good Burnley side. Generally speaking, at Ashton Gate this season they've been really strong, and what's constantly hampered West Brom throughout the season has been a pretty lacklustre away record, if we're being honest. The overall form book doesn't look particularly brilliant for the Baggies coming into this game either, considering they're now winless in their last 4 matches. Obviously they lost that one over the weekend against Sunderland, and something that has to be pointed out is that while there's not been much between these two sides in terms of overall point tally so far this season, Bristol City are a far better team at home than West Brom are away from home, if that makes sense. So far this season, Bristol City have averaged 1.95 points per game in home matches. West Brom have only averaged 1.1 points per game in away matches, and they've not won away from home since the middle of November, West Brom. So do with that information what you like. For me personally, I'm fancying a Bristol City win here. 2-1 Bristol City, I'm saying, which would really shake things up in the top 6 race. After that we go to Pride Park for Derby up against Burnley. A massive game at both ends of the table, this one. Derby just outside the relegation zone on goal difference right now, and in terms of the automatic promotion race, Burnley were the big winners of last weekend in the Championship. They came from a goal behind to beat Coventry, also during a weekend where both Leeds and Sheff Utd dropped points as well. So Burnley in the driving seat for automatic promotion right now, but this game is by no means going to be a walk in the park for Scott Parker's side, especially at home recently. Derby have been really competitive. They've not been giving away many goals. Even the loss over the weekend against Swansea was a marginal one. But you have to say Burnley have been so good this season at just edging those tight matches, and this is the sort of game where I wouldn't be surprised if it is a 1 goal either way sort of affair. But with Burnley being really strong at the back and having a bit more killer instinct about them in the final third at the moment as well, I'm just going to edge them for a 1-0 away win in that game. But wouldn't be totally shocked if Derby could snatch a point from that game. They're not to be written off, especially at home right now. Next up we go to Carrow Road for Norwich up against Sunderland. I think the last 2 game weeks have really epitomised Norwich's campaign this season. They had that really good win late on against West Brom. They then couldn't follow it up away from home and lost 2-1 against Plymouth, and it really has been that away record that's really let Norwich down this season. At home they do tend to have a little bit more about them, and I think they will craft out some decent opportunities here, albeit against the Sunderland side, who I've actually been quite impressed with how they've come out of this international break. I think it would have been very easy for Sunderland to have taken their eye off the ball, coming into these final few matches with their 4th place finished, all but guaranteed this season. But they've not done that recently. They've won 2 marginal games, like I say, both by a 1-goal margin. I think Norwich could be decent value for at least a goal in this one. They do tend to score when they're playing at home, but can't lie, I like how Sunderland have been shading these tight matches recently. Score prediction for me in this one, I'm going to go 2-1 Sunderland on the road in that game. After that, we go to Deepdale for Preston up against Cardiff. Have to be honest, I was pretty underwhelmed by Preston over the weekend against Stoke. It was a 1-1 draw in the end. We did take the lead and Stoke did get back into it thanks to a little bit of a soft penalty, but on reflection of the full 90 minutes, I thought Stoke with the more threatening side. I thought they played the better football, and from a North End perspective, overall it was pretty underwhelming. It does feel like we are limping towards the finish line in this championship season. Cardiff could only play out a goalless draw over the weekend against QPR. Not the most helpful in terms of their survival bid, but if you're a team scrapping for your lives at the bottom of the championship right now, I don't think Preston is the worst fixture in the world, with North End not really playing like we have a lot on the line at the moment. With that being said, we have been fairly tough to beat at Deepdale all season. We've only lost 2 of our 20 league home matches this far into the campaign, and this does feel like a tight, marginal, low-scoring game. First goal feels quite crucial for me in this one, but if I'm being totally honest, I'm not even sure we're going to see a first goal. Score prediction, I'm going to go for a goalless draw in that one. After that, we go to Brom Lane for Sheff United up against Millwall. Now, I'm sure every Sheff United fan was rubbing their hands together after the early kickoffs in the Championship. Obviously, they'd have seen Leeds dropping points against Luton. They were going into that game against Oxford over the weekend as the overwhelming favourites, but ended up losing it 1-0, and I think it just goes to show that there will be plenty more twists and turns between now and the end of the season for all of those clubs going for automatic promotion. I don't think that any of them are necessarily flawless. I think they're all going to drop points between now and the end of the season, but for a Sheffield United side right now, who is obviously targeting one of those top 2 places, it's absolutely crucial that they get back to winning ways in midweek. They can't afford to go on a prolonged rut of not winning games, you know, like Leeds are currently experiencing right now, per se. Millwall can be really tricky to play against as well. I don't think we're going to get a goal fest in this game. They're obviously coming off the back of a good win themselves over the weekend against Pompey. It was Ivanovic with 2 goals in that game to make the difference. Away from home, Millwall have been a little bit up and down recently, and for that reason, I'm just going to edge it to Sheff United. 1-0 at home, I'm going to say, but yeah, after the weekend, this game's got added pressure, added importance from a Sheffield United perspective. After that, we go to the Bet365 for Stoke up against Luton. It's a massive game at the bottom of the Championship with huge implications for both teams. If Luton manage to win this game, they'll only be 1 point behind Stoke in the league table, which really emphasises how big this sort of game is. And if Stoke manage to win it, they'll finally be able to put a bit of breathing space between themselves and at least Luton for the time being. Now, me being a Preston fan, I obviously saw Stoke in action over the weekend when they travelled to Deepdale, and I've got to be honest with you, I was fairly impressed actually. I thought they played some quite nice football. Don't get me wrong, I thought the penalty they were given, which is obviously how they got back into the game, was pretty soft, but on reflection of the full 90 minutes, if either team was going to go on and win that game, it was Stoke. They had by far the better chances. Looked like they were a bit more up for it on the day as well. Maybe a bit of cutting edge in the final third cost them all 3 points, but if they take that sort of performance into this game against Luton, then I give them a very good chance of winning it. With that being said, Luton can't be written off right now. They're coming off the back of a very solid point over the weekend themselves against Leeds. Away form has been a real issue for Luton all season, but even in that regard, they have turned a little bit of a corner recently, having won back-to-back away matches. But with all of that being said, Stoke have been fairly good and reliable for a win at home recently, and I do give them a slight advantage in this game with them being at home. Score prediction for me, I think it'll be marginal, but I'm going to go 2-1 Stoke in that game. Draw wouldn't surprise me, but I don't want to sit on the fence for that one. Next up, we go to Vicarage Road for Watford up against Hull. I think we have seen Watford's top 6 hopes evaporate in recent weeks. I think realistically, coming out of this international break that we've had recently, if Watford wanted to keep those top 6 hopes alive, they probably needed to win their last 2 games, and they ended up dropping points against both Plymouth and obviously losing that game over the weekend against Bristol City. Now means that they probably don't don't have a great deal to play for, and from a Hull perspective, it's probably a decent time to be playing a team like Watford for that very reason. Now, Hull, I did call their last game absolutely spot on, that 1-0 win away at Sheffield Wednesday. They left it late, but it looked like absolute pandemonium in the away end when that late goal did go in. They've not been giving away that much to the opposition recently, Hull have they? Not losing many football matches right now. And I think in a game like this, there'll be good value for a point at the very least. Score prediction for me, I'm going to go for a 1-1er between those two. Next up, we go to the Riverside for Middlesbrough up against Leeds, and going off the form book right now, you'd have to be fancying Middlesbrough going into this fixture. They've won 5 of their last 7, a pretty comfortable win for them last time out away at Blackburn, found themselves 2 goals up really early on in that sort of game, and this one does have the feeling of quite an open game of football with chances at both ends of the pitch. Maybe this sort of fixture will suit a team like Leeds right now, who definitely have been suffering from the weight of expectancy, the pressure that has definitely got to them in recent weeks. You know, they've only won 1 of their last 6 in the league. They're not playing with that same fluidity or cutting edge that they were a couple of months ago when they were brushing teams aside with ease, are they? But I do think Leeds could be good value for a goal or 2 in this game at the very least. It's just at the opposite end of the pitch. You don't exactly trust them at the moment. Regardless of who's in net, it feels like there is a mistake in there in that Leeds back line. Now, one thing that is worth pointing out is in the league in recent years, Middlesbrough haven't exactly had a brilliant track record against Leeds. They're actually winless in their last 7 league meetings with Leeds United, so do with that information what you may. I do think Leeds got off the hook a little bit over the weekend when they dropped points against Luton because Sheff United ended up losing against Oxford. But for this match here, I think it may be another case of some drop points. Score prediction, I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw in that one. Borough will make things entertaining, and Leeds, I'm just not sure what side's going to show up at the moment. After that, we go to a big game at the bottom of the Championship. It's Oxford going up against QPR, and I don't think anyone saw that result coming for Oxford over the weekend, but absolutely fair play to them. I think most of us agreed that Oxford's survival bid this season was going to be absolutely built around their record at home, and recently, that's where they've been coming up clutch. They've won their last 2 home matches, 1-0 wins against both Sheffield United and against Watford, and it has to be said, this is a decent time to be playing QPR, who, in a very similar vein to Preston, really seem like they're limping over the line to end this Championship season. It was a goalless draw last time out against Cardiff. The overall form book doesn't look particularly great for QPR right now, who are without winning their last 7 Championship matches, and need to be wary that they're definitely not completely over the line right now, QPR, in terms of safety. You know, if they were to theoretically lose every single game between now and the end of the season, then they would be relegated. I don't think 46 points will be enough to guarantee you survival this season, but I think they will find the required points to get over the line, QPR, but I'm just not sure they come in this sort of game. Oxford have been really good value for money for a result at home recently, like I've said, and score prediction for me in this one, I'm going to go 2-0 Oxford to continue that good streak at home. After that, we go to Swansea up against Plymouth. Good win for Swansea last time out. It now means they've won 3 of their last 4 home matches, and despite not really having anything to play for right now, don't seem to be in the favour for handing out any points to the opposition. And I mean, from a Plymouth perspective, they keep doing this. Just when you think that all hope is lost, they draw you back in and think that maybe the great escape could still be on for them. Obviously, it was a big win for them over the weekend against Norwich. Now, to be fair, I was fancying Plymouth for a result in that game. At home recently, they have been a tough nut to crack, even all season, you'd say, to be honest, at home park. But I do think it has been pretty typical of Plymouth this season to grab a result at home and then not be able to follow it up in an away match of equal significance. Now, to be fair to Plymouth, they are unbeaten in their last 2 games on the road, but like I was saying before, Swansea don't seem to be in the mood to give out any favours right now. It's the sort of game that I do see Swansea dominating from a possession point of view. I think they will have more opportunities than Plymouth in this game as well. Just a question of whether Plymouth can keep things tight enough at the back and pick their points to go forward and be clinical enough to take their chances when they come along. Score prediction for me personally, I am fancying a Swansea win. 2-0 Swansea, I'm saying for that game. Apologies, Plymouth fans. And then to round off this midweek batch of games, we've got Coventry going up against Portsmouth. I think Coventry just have to get those last 2 results out of their system as quickly as possible. We all know it was going to be a massive ask for them to get anything from those 2 back-to-back games against Sheff United and Burnley. And to be honest, on another day, they could have got something from that game against Burnley. It wasn't to be in the end, and it's just as important that now they get back to winning ways as quickly as possible. And Coventry do have the advantage that at least one of their playoff rivals will be dropping points in midweek. You know, the fact that Bristol City and West Brom are playing against each other is a bit of an incentive for Coventry to really go after this game against Pompey. Portsmouth obviously losing last time out away at Millwall. Has been a bit of a trend throughout the season that Portsmouth have been a completely different team at home compared to away from home. That definitely benefits Coventry in this sort of match here. In terms of the race for the top 6 right now, it's looking like Bristol City and Middlesbrough really are the teams to beat at the moment. So Coventry need to get back to winning ways as quickly as possible. I think they'll just about get the job done here. Score prediction for me, going to go 2-1 Cov in that game. But there you guys have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. Make sure to get all your score predictions in the comments down below, and do go ahead and drop a like if you went on to enjoy. Apart from that though guys, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.